In this tutorial, I'll be showing how I did the nail art for all of these nails. I'm going to start off by painting all the tips the same color of red, and as always, all the products will be linked in the description of this video. I'm doing 2 even coats, and these are some custom press-ons that I'm doing. For airbrush, I'm mixing up some white polish and adding a hint of like a brownish grayish color. And for all my airbrush, I use acetone. If you want the airbrush effect to be more vibrant, use less acetone. Afterwards, I'm just mixing it all together. You really want to make sure it's all mixed, because if it's not, when you airbrush it, you'll just see splotches of the gel polish. Next, I'm going in kind of like a few inches away in a circular motion. I used a lot of acetone just because I wanted this to be kind of a diluted, more gradient airbrush effect. And as always, you can keep layering it on. I'm just sticking to the middle, again, going in a circular motion and checking to see if I like how the light reflects against the airbrush. I'm used to doing airbrush this way, but I've heard that pigment powders also work well. I've also heard that you shouldn't airbrush this way because the acetone is dangerous on the lungs, but I feel like any nail product is dangerous on the lungs, and you should always be wearing a mask and proper protection whenever you're doing things like this. So again, I'm just showing the gradient effect of all this. And if you apply the airbrush in too thick of a coat, it'll look splotchy like that and droop. So before curing, I just make sure to wipe all of it off, because you don't want to cure it like that because you can't cover it up. And then just going in and honestly doing a thinner layer, because when it's thick, that's when it looks like those spots on it. And the airbrush is all complete. This is the easiest way to draw a star. I start off making a figure A shape. Then I do just one line across and connect it on both sides. This definitely does take time, but I recommend whenever you do any star, you start off small and then work your way up, because you never know if you'll have to add more on to make it look more sharp and precise. And then I carefully fill in the lines of the star. A good trick is that the less product you have on the liner brush, the more precise your star will be. This just makes it look extra sharp, and then the product won't pool. Afterwards, I'm using the McCart rhinestone glue. This is the best rhinestone glue definitely on the market. I'm adding some charms onto the star nail to give it that intergalactic effect. I like sealing my charms with top coat, but I know some people don't, just because it dulls it. So if you don't like that, you can just go around the charms. But if the client doesn't want that, then you shouldn't do that. I'm going to show again how I do the star. This one was a little bit trickier just because I was starting off so small. And so when I'm doing this like angle, it kind of like I overshot it, and right here the brush like skipped like where I wanted it to go, so you just have to clean it up as you go. That's also why I say start off small and go big, because if I would have started off big, there would actually be no room for me to make that look cleaner. And then after that, this is the finished intergalactic nail part 2. For this next nail, it's all about the abstract line work of the chrome liner. I'm just, taking my time, but honestly, this was the easiest nail art to do because you're just swooping it and just letting the brush go where it goes. But you want to make sure it goes from end to end. You don't want the nail art to just stop whenever it gets to the corner of the nail. And it's okay to break it up into pieces so that you don't make it look all straggly. And with this liner, I've also learned that less is more, because if you put a lot of the chrome liner on the nail, it will not cure properly and it will kind of wrinkle up. Now I'm using that same McCart rhinestone glue to add a little pop on the corners. I'm using these like silver beads. I don't think they're called caviar beads, but that's just what I think of. And I'm just putting the glue on first all around the corner. And then I'm just applying the beads. And I found that you just do it step by step, but I do flash cure every angle. And I'm choosing to top coat the beads, but if you want to make sure the beads don't dull out and get scratched, you want to cover it with the IBD hard gel, and that really just seals in the silver charms. I actually just freeballed this nail. I had no idea what I was going to do, so I just decided to do some squiggly lines. But then I started thinking like, okay, what if I make it look like a chain link and just overlap some things? And I'm really proud of how it looked. I tried to make it look kind of symmetrical on each side, and so I made sure that each one had a little loop to it. And then on the top, it looked a little empty, so I am just kind of adding a little bit more on the first top link. After that, I'm going to top coat it with the Koopa top coat so it can look all nice and shiny. And then this nail is all complete, and I love how the gradient looks on this one as well. For this next charm nail, I'm using the same McCart rhinestone glue, honestly just to cover up that bump. And then when you apply the charm, it will kind of try and move around, but you really want to position it how you want to. I'm using the Goya Flash Cure UV light just to set it in place. You only need to have it on there for a couple seconds, and that allows you to move on to the next nail. This one seriously slid over the place, but you just need to position it how you want to. Again, gonna flash cure that, and the gel just dries very quickly, so it only takes a couple seconds. Now I wanted to make it look like the butterflies were kind of like following each other, so I'm using that kind of racetrack or running type of lines, kind of like how the bees always have like a line around them, like in a cartoon. And now I'm using this gel to fill the gap of the charm. This basically helps so that your hair doesn't get stuck in the charm or pretty much anything. It just makes sure that that space is filled and that nothing can get snagged under it. Again, using the Goya Flash Cure light. The best part about this is that you really can't even tell that any gel is there. It looks very natural, so it won't look all crazy, but you just want to make sure that that gap is filled, and that shouldn't let your nail snag on anything. Now I'm top coating the entire thing. I do kind of go over the charm, but these are such thick charms that I really don't think you have to worry about sealing them in too much. For this rendition of a star, I start off with a circular little dot and then just drag it up corner to corner. I found this is the easiest way on how to make these little like stripy stars. After that, I'm going in and kind of angling it to make it look, I think this is how like the North Star kind of looks, but do this part in sections because this liner brush sometimes does not move the way you want it to. It can be kind of stiff, and that's how the nail looks afterwards. Now for this other one, I'm doing pretty much the exact same thing. You want to do the circles first and then use that same product to drag it out. The less product on your brush, the better. This makes it look very pointy and just kind of sparkly like. After that, doing the same thing on the sides. You can add more specks if you want. I found that I add more specks just to make it look prettier, and I feel like this is more of an aesthetic choice. I like adding these just because it just adds more to the design. And after all of that, the star nail is complete. This has been my favorite nail design to do, like ever. I feel like this is kind of like a timeless look that I love recreating. I'm starting off with the chrome liner and just doing a straight up just chrome border. I feel like this one really shows like the artistry and line work of a nail tech, just because it can be kind of difficult to make it look symmetrical, but if you take your time, it honestly is so easy to do. I feel like the airbrush just adds that dimension to it and kind of makes it look like a James Turrell painting. So afterwards, I'm going in from the center and just going out, and honestly this part just takes time, but you want to make it look honestly perfect. Now I'm using the McCart rhinestone glue as always and adding that charm right in the middle. You want to make it look exactly how you want it, just dab in the middle, and then afterwards you want to flash cure it with that same Goya light. This is the best flash cure light just because it's so like handy and small. And after top coating the whole nail, this intergalactic press-on custom nail set is all complete.